Hello, my friend. This is Clyde. It's time to clean the house. As a child growing up, Saturday was the day for cleaning the house. Monday to Friday would find us doing light work such as dusting and sweeping, but Saturday, that was the big cleanup day, inside and outside. It was not a nice experience, but it was necessary. There are 4 accounts in the Bible of Jesus cleaning the temple. The temple was in Jerusalem, the city of God, the place where special worship events took place. The temple was not like modern churches with pews and a pulpit for the preacher to speak from. The temple was mainly for sacrifice. The temple was revered as the house of God. Remember how enthusiastic King David was that they should build a special place for the nation to come to worship and offer sacrifice? However, God passed that assignment down to King Solomon, and he supervised the project for 7 years. One feature of the temple was the outer courts where the people would assemble for teaching and to get ready for the animal sacrifices. Jesus was from out of town, but on several occasions he and his disciples would go up to Jerusalem and they would go to the temple. I cannot recall them doing animal sacrifices, but you find Jesus teaching in the temple courts all the time. However, this past Sunday, the world celebrated Palm Sunday, a spontaneous parade of Jesus riding into the city on a donkey and people throwing clothes and palm branches on the ground and singing songs of adulation to him. It was quite a spectacle. What made it even more interesting was that week was the feast of the Passover, and thousands of Jews from out of town and beyond came to Jerusalem for this solemn 7-day feast. There was also animal sacrifices done at the temple daily, but the actual feast was held in homes. It was a time for business people to earn some big money by selling items that were needed, animals for the sacrifices and food items for the feasts. It was a brilliant idea, but it got out of hand. Right there in the temple courts, the place was converted into a marketplace. The focus was on the sales, and it was a time to inflate the prices, and there would be so much bargaining and negotiations of prices, and of course, there would be unscrupulous activities. Some animals were not healthy, but they were on sale. I am not describing a local marketplace, my friend. I'm talking about commerce in the temple, the house of God. This was not the first time Jesus was seeing this happening, but this time he was incensed. Matthew 21 and verse 12 says, Jesus entered the temple courts and drove out all who were buying and selling there. He overturned the tables of the money changers and the benches of those selling doves. In John 2, we read more details. When it was almost time for the Jewish Passover, Jesus went up to Jerusalem. In the temple courts, he found people selling cattle, sheep, and doves, and others sitting at tables exchanging money. So he made a whip out of cords and drove all from the temple courts, both sheep and cattle. He scattered the coins of the money changers and overturned their tables. Without warning, Jesus single-handedly interrupted a practice he found inappropriate, downright wrong. In Mark 11, we hear him saying, "Is it not written, my house will be called a house of prayer for all nations, but you have made it a den of robbers"? That day, Jesus cleaned the temple and declared his disappointment that the place of worship and holy sacrifice had become a common marketplace. These people used the occasion to desecrate the house of God. The temple no longer looked like or served the original purpose, that of a house of prayer and worship. It had become an unholy place. It had become less than what it was meant to be. Sin had taken over. Can you see what God saw then, and undoubtedly what he sees today in our lives? Oh, I should remind you of something that you have heard before. When you became a child of God, the Holy Spirit of God came to live inside of you. He made your body a temple. In 1 Corinthians 6, we read, "Flee from sexual immorality. All other sins a person commits are outside the body, but whoever sins sexually sins against their own body. Do you not know that your bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit who is in you, whom you have received from God? You are not your own. You were bought at a price. Therefore, honor God with your bodies." Is it Saturday morning like my childhood home was? Is it like that day when Jesus interrupted a thriving business in the temple? Let us be honest. My mother insisted that the house be cleaned that day because for the last 6 or 7 days, things were messed up and the house had to be returned to good condition. Jesus looks inside our house, and evidence of sinful activities, large and small, are there, and he makes us know that it is time to clean house. Or on a day when Jesus expects you to be holy and entertaining the Holy Spirit, you are involved in some ugly, sinful activities that are forbidden. Our bodies should honor God, not grieve the Holy Spirit. We should live in a way that is holy and acceptable to God. It is the least we can do, based on Romans 12 and verse 1. My friend, clean up the temple. Get rid of the sinful activities that occur in your life. Remember, the Holy Spirit lives inside of you. 2 Corinthians 7 verse 1 says, "Therefore, since we have these promises, dear friends, let us purify ourselves from everything that contaminates body and spirit, perfecting holiness out of reverence for God."